Hi, I'm Scott. We have yet another leak on the new Montage coming from Yamaha, probably within a week or two. Let's find out what we know now. So the new Montage, the Montage M6, M7, and the M8X, we know those are the official names, and there have been some new pictures released along with sounds. This time not really a leak because it was leaked by Yamaha themselves, so more of a teaser. So let's have a look at these pictures. I will put a link to the sound. They posted a SoundCloud playlist that has some of the sounds of the new Montage. I mean, to me, it sounds pretty much like the old Montage, but so be it. Anyway, I'll put a link to those in the description below. Let's have a look at the pictures and what we can figure out and derive from those pictures. First off, in the modification section, we have our controllers here, and they have a new LCD screen above it that is a monochrome LCD screen. A nice feature is that that screen now shows what the function of each individual knob is. So instead of trying to figure out by setting tone on here and then reading, oh, this one's the decay, so now I'm actuating decay. Instead of doing that, it actually shows it right on the screen, and it looks like you can actually change it on a knob by knob basis. So it would be nice if you could just have every knob, this could be doing your EQ at the same time as this one's doing decay, because currently you have 3 sets. So if I want EQ and FX, now my knobs are all doing EQ and FX. If I hit set tone, now these are all doing tone. So it would be nice to be able to have a mix of all 3 amongst those knobs. And there's also individual buttons so you can turn things on and off. And you can see in the screen there that it actually shows the function of the knob and the button above it, which is, it looks like just a toggle button. We see that the old scene button location here, where they are below the sliders, moved over, and we did know that. We saw that before, but we didn't know what the existing scene buttons were actually doing now. Well, now we do, because we have a clearer picture of it. And those are the buttons that used to be up here. So we have our part select buttons up here, and we have a mute and solo, so we can individually select a part and mute it and solo it. So I was actually bemoaning the loss of that functionality because those buttons clearly weren't here in the previous shots that we saw. However, they have moved those over here, which makes more sense because you might want to, instead of just using your scenes to select multiple parts, you could do it manually from right here. So actually, I kind of like that. That looks like a good change to me. The one thing they didn't change, I was hoping that these octave buttons were going to move from this area over to this area. If you look at pretty much every other synthesizer, the octave buttons are always right next to the left-hand controllers, because when you're playing, you may need to quickly shift octaves, and on the Montage, they're still up here in the middle underneath, and they've actually moved them up and buried them, so not a great outcome, but I guess they didn't want to change too much. So yes, but we have changed a few things over in this side. We do have our motion sequence trigger button on the new Montage. We have a hold, which I think is probably just the motion sequence hold. We do see a new button over here, the ribbon setting button, and then some markings on the ribbon. It looks like the ribbon is just exactly the same as it was, with some actual markings on there, but we do have that extra button that allows us to change what the actual ribbon button or ribbon controller is actually going to do. I have noticed that we now have this shot of the keyboard turned on so we can see the colors of the lights, and several of these buttons over on the right side are actually green now instead of orange. So instead of having orange everywhere for every button except for the scenes, now the part select and the scene select buttons are this blue. Everything else is orange except for the buttons over here, which are green, so that makes it a little easier in the dark to see what we're working and what we're actually aiming to hit. They did give us a very non-committal shot of the screen. It's hard to tell, but I think that screen might be higher resolution just based on what I'm seeing in there. That I know this is a 640 by 480 screen, and it appears to me that the new screen might be higher resolution. It's really hard to tell, but it would be nice. Now we do see some of the features like the BPM and the keyboard control at the very top that are the same as the existing Montage. It's hard to say whether this is an entirely new operating system on the new Montage, or is this just a new screen, because what we're seeing here is a signal flow diagram, and it actually has some graphics in there, icons showing LFO, waveforms, and so on. That's actually a welcome, because editing the signal flow in the Montage is not entirely intuitive, and particularly when you get into part versus common, performance versus part, and sometimes you can get a little confused as to actually what effect is modulating what, and why am I hearing chorus on this part, and that sort of thing. It's not entirely clear unless you have a really good idea of how to actually route signals. So having a screen like it's showing here, where it's actually physically showing here's the signal flow, here's what's modifying your signal flow. So if that's a new screen and they're just showing off the new screen in this teaser, hey, that's more than welcome. Is this an entirely new operating system? I'm thinking highly unlikely, because doing so would more than likely mean that all the existing patches and performances from previous Montages are not compatible. They're never going to do that. They've always brought forward compatibility from motif lines to Montage and so on. There's always an upgrade path. I mean, you can even load DX7 patches in here. So I have a feeling that the operating system is updated but still the same, and what we're seeing is in this picture is a new signal path flow diagram that may be interactive, that shows you exactly where the signal path is in the Montage and why you're hearing what you're hearing. That's all we have from Yamaha. This is probably my last video on this until we actually get the thing actually released, because I have a feeling we're only days away from it. So if you want to have a listen as to what Yamaha has put out as the sounds of the new Montage, again, I'll put a link to that in the description below. If you have any comments, suggestions, questions, please leave those in the comments section below. And click like, subscribe, please. It really helps me out. If you just take 10 seconds, do either or both of those things, especially getting new subscribers. We just hit 15,000 subscribers, so that's fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. And until we have the next Montage announcement, that's probably it for me. Thanks for watching.